Today on the CTV News at 5, support for striking CP Rail employees.
We stand in solidarity with you today.
Local labor union members walk the line with them. Plus, recommendations from a fatality inquiry calls for policy and structural changes at Chinook Regional Hospital. And some Lethbridge athletes aim to break provincial records in powerlifting.
CTV News with Jackie Scantlebury.
Good afternoon. For the third straight day, CP Rail employees from Lethbridge are rallying in a nationwide fight for better working conditions. Members of other local labor unions join the protest as the federal government considers back-to-work legislation. Alicia Fieldberg reports.
We stand in solidarity with you today.
Canadian Pacific rail workers got support from several unions in a rally at the Churchill Rail Yard. 160 local CP workers walked off the job Thursday. Friday, members of unions that represent workers in several industries, including agriculture, government, and health, joined the picket line.
I think they recognize that they could be next. A profitable company should not be coming after their current employees for their pension.
CP rail workers rejected a proposal to cut pensions up to 40%, reduce retirement health benefits, and increase work hours. The strike has shut down freight service across the country.
It's not really our choice. You know, we would have liked to have a settlement beforehand, but they don't want to bargain with the union, and we're just supporting all our brothers and sisters.
With national negotiations moving slowly, government officials say they're considering legislation to end the strike.
Back-to-work legislation isn't a for sure thing, but we will do whatever's necessary to make sure that these discussions can carry forward, but without holding the rest of the economy at bay.
Federal Labor Minister Lisa Raitt said if negotiations don't make headway, workers could be ordered back to the job as early as Monday. Local protesters say they hope it doesn't come to that.
We do not have a system of free and fair collective bargaining anymore in this country if we have a government who is willing to intervene every single time on behalf of the companies.
If CP rail employees are ordered back to work, it won't take effect until legislation passes at least 2 days later. Alicia Fieldberg, CTV News, Lethbridge.
Meanwhile, Lethbridge MP Jim Hillier says changes to the federal employment insurance program could help local employers. Southern Alberta has one of the lowest unemployment rates in the country, and Hillier says some local companies have a hard time filling their staff. Now, he says encouraging job seekers to find suitable work up to an hour away from home will get more people back into the workforce.
I don't know a lot of people around here who aren't already willing to get in the car and go where they need to go for work. I know people who go to Fort McMurray, go to Brooks or whatever. But at the same time, if there are a few people who, just want to stay home, this does encourage them to go a little bit beyond, their neighborhood.
Hillier says the changes will also improve the distribution of job alerts. And in other labor news, Premier Alison Redford is making good on a campaign promise that will mean better workers' compensation coverage for firefighters, paramedics, and police officers. Bill 1 will ensure that post-traumatic stress disorder is covered for emergency personnel and first responders. PTSD is an emotional and psychological response to a traumatic event that is life-threatening or very stressful.
Bill 1 will provide Alberta's emergency responders with the assurance and support needed to deal with these difficult situations, and for that we thank you.
Cooldill Fire Chief Andy Van Ryan says the move only makes sense. He says first responders encounter some terrible situations in their line of work, and making sure that their mental health is intact should be a top priority for the government.
Well, I think it is overdue. I mean, it's recognized in other professions, so why not fire? Because I mean, we go to a lot of different things in our careers. And especially in small towns, you know the people that you respond to. You go to traffic fatalities and serious collisions and house fires, and we see a lot of things. And we're just normal people going to abnormal situations. So I think it's about time it came.
How significant of a change
Changes to WCB will allow firefighters, police officers, sheriffs, and paramedics to receive compensation for PTSD without having to prove that their condition is work-related. Alberta would be the first province in Canada to provide that kind of coverage. Dory Rossiter, it is a very busy weekend ahead. Medicine Hat's Relay for Life is going to kick off in just a couple of hours tonight. Cystic fibrosis, Great Strides fundraiser is on Sunday, so people should be bringing umbrellas and sunscreen?
Yeah, I'm thinking both things would be a good idea, Jackie. It's not that we're going to have a total rain out, but we're not going to have total sunshine either. And just that leftover instability. And we've got a system in the Montana-Idaho area that's just kind of churning. It's got a possibility of crossing the border into Alberta and giving us even a little more instability. So just be prepared for everything. Umbrella, sunscreen, those kind of things. Yeah, I would take them with me. I'll have details coming up in a couple of minutes.
More weather's on the way. A judge's report from a fatality inquiry into the death of a Lethbridge teenager is calling for policy and structural changes at Chinook Regional Hospital. In July of 2010, 17-year-old Michael Ferguson was involuntarily admitted to the psychiatric ward at the Lethbridge Hospital. Ferguson was given permission to go outside for a cigarette with family, but then fled to the high-level bridge where he jumped to his death. Ferguson's family participated in the 3-day fatality inquiry held in March. In his report released today, Judge Fred Coward recommended that compulsory psychiatric patients not be given leave of absence for 72 hours after being admitted, that any leave for such a patient be confirmed by both a psychiatric specialist and another qualified physician, as well that a secure open area be built on the west side of CRH with access to the psychiatric unit. Coward's report also calls for police and CP railway officials to continue to look at ways of improving public safety along the bridge. And the purpose of a fatality inquiry isn't to lay legal responsibility, but to prevent similar tragedies in the future. A 24-year-old Pincher Creek man is dead after a two-vehicle crash near Bowden. RCMP say a car and SUV collided at the intersection of Secondary Highway 587 and Range Road 14 Wednesday night. Police say that a northbound car driven by the Pincher Creek man was crossing the highway at an intersection controlled by a stop sign. The car was hit by an eastbound SUV driven by a 65-year-old Innisfail woman. Both vehicles ended up in the ditch, and the man was thrown from the car and pronounced dead at the scene. The woman in the SUV went to hospital with non-life-threatening injuries. RCMP say that speed and failing to stop at a stop sign were contributing factors. No charges will be laid. The victim's name hasn't been released. And police have charged a 30-year-old Lethbridge man for allegedly stealing from his employer. Officers say the thefts and frauds happened between October of 2011 and April 2012. Richard Linz faces 17 counts of theft under $5,000 and 1 count of fraud under $5,000. He'll make his first court appearance on June the 27th. And a Medicine Hat man has been fined $238,000 after being investigated in an alleged insider trading scheme. Jeffrey Bratwold admitted that he didn't take sufficient steps to ensure that his trades complied with Alberta security laws when questioned about the trading shares of Everready Inc., knowing that it was going to be sold. It's the same case where former Medicine Hat investment advisor Richard Kowalchuk was fined $210,000 for insider trading and illegal tipping. The Alberta Securities Commission is investigating 5 other people in the case. A Lethbridge man will serve time in a federal penitentiary after being caught sharing images of children as young as 3 years old being sexually assaulted. Robert Darren Seeley pleaded guilty to possessing and distributing pornography. In January, he was caught by a special Toronto police unit for accessing and distributing porn, as well as trying to lure young boys into posing for him online by pretending to be a 16-year-old girl. Seeley was sentenced to 3 years behind bars. He also must provide a DNA sample, and he will be listed on the sex offender registry. Efforts were launched across the country today to raise awareness of missing children. May 25th is Missing Children's Awareness Day. This afternoon, the YWCA held a free public event to educate children and their parents on the importance of child safety in a fun and interactive way. They offered face painting and games, but also supplied children's ID kits and provided current photographs. The YWCA Young Women's Leadership Council says education is the key to keeping kids safe.
Children are our leaders of tomorrow, right? So that's kind of one of our big reasons. I mean, it's really important for children's safety, but because our community won't run without the children anyways. So That's why we think it's really important.
National Missing Children's Awareness Day began in 1983. A pair of Westside elementary schools were focusing on girls' health today. Zumba was just one of the activities included in today's Girls Rockin' the West conference. The one-day event was open to grade 5 students at Nicholas, Sharon, and Mike Mountain Horse elementary schools. The goal is to promote the importance of overall health, including social, emotional, and physical components. Organizers say it's important to talk about these things with those sometimes awkward teenage years rapidly approaching.
Young girls, grade 5, are about 11 years old. It's a crucial time as their identity is developing and forming, and they're taking from families what they've learned and developed and putting that into practice in their own way. What works for them? Who are they in this community? Officials at the schools say that they hope to make this an annual event. And construction is set to begin on a new sports medicine clinic at the University of Lethbridge. The new clinic will be located inside the Wellness Center. Once complete, it will house up to 4 physicians and support staff. The space will feature physiotherapy and exam rooms, treatment areas, and doctors' offices. The project manager says the clinic was always part of the plans. Construction is set to be completed by the end of August. A renowned physician and best-selling author is coming to Lethbridge with a powerful message. Representatives from Social Housing in Action and Covenant Health were at City Hall to announce Dr. Gabor Mate will be in town next week to speak about addictions. Dr. Mate is a leading expert in addiction treatment and will be the keynote speaker at a 2-day conference and community presentation. Local officials say his message is an important one and aligns with their collective efforts to help reduce homelessness in the city.
We can all become educated and aware. Awareness is our first step in gaining the information that everybody needs to be able to help one another as a community, which is what Lethbridge is really good for.
You know, we've made a lot of improvements and made a lot of ground in those efforts, and so we're really positive about the work that's being done, and we really believe that we can really put a huge dent in our homelessness problem here in Lethbridge.
The community presentation is open to the public. It goes 7 o'clock Tuesday, May 29th at the Coast Lethbridge Hotel. On to the markets today, where there was some resurgence. Here's a look at how the markets wrapped up the week.